I'm the master of
We're
ready.
live now, so we're ready. We're ready for
Okay.
the world. So we were talking about the rule of sevens.
I did not. I was talking about the power of threes.
I was talking about the rule of sevens, and then well, you said power of threes, and I said no, it's sevens, not three. Three is just the beginning.
You're going by some marketing guy trying to get you to pay for seven rather than three.
I'm going by facts and data and empirical data because it happened to me at least 3 times, and that
There we go. That's what I'm saying.
that's well, hey, that's all the evidence that I need that suggests that this is in fact true, and I go by it. I base my whole life around these 3 experiences.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Wait. Kind of.
How so?
And now, are these three experiences the? Are you talking about like past, present, and future? Being aware of all three of them,
No, I don't.
or
I don't think I
going?
am.
Are you going through iterations?
I'm going through iterations. I go through iterations a lot. So I haven't spoken to you in how long on a show? How long has it been?
Uh, uh, quite a while.
Who was I back then, and who were you, and how are you different now?
I don't know. I was much more of an asshole. I think you were a bigger asshole too. Although you might think I'm more of an asshole now.
I think that I have going through. No, you go through asshole waves. I see you go through your loops, just like I do. I go through my calm Buddha states where I am above it all, and I could see
Yeah.
everything. And then the next day, yo, what you say? What did you say? What?
Yeah.
Wait. What do you mean you don't like my name? I will hunt you down and kill you. Well, no, I wouldn't say, but I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
but for well, some things depends.
Well, I'm being metaphorical. Obviously, it would be
Yeah.
something worse than that. But I mean, my point is that yeah, you go up and down. You have your authoritarians, and I have my authoritarians. We still have a
Yeah.
lot of authoritarians in us, is what I think.
Do you think
They're hard to get
everyone
out.
has do you think everyone has authoritarianism? Like is it part of everyone?
I believe that. Well, I actually believe that we're born with the God particle. That's how I'm going to start this show. God. Now
What
you know the God particle is the scientific. What do they call it? The quartz or
the
whatever quark or
the
what do they
Higgs
call it?
boson?
What is it?
Is it the Higgs boson? Boson? Boson?
Whatever it is, that thing.
I
I'm
don't know
not
how to say
referring
it.
to that thing. I'm
That's the
taking the
elementary.
term and I'm co-opting it. I am basically culturally appropriating this word, this phrase. Now the
Okay, so
God. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask you exactly what you were gonna say.
Now the
So
God particle is for me. It is existence. That's it. So our primary driver is to exist. Well, we think of existence as being just living,
existence or
physical
awareness? Ex-
existence.
existence or awareness, though.
Existence.
Well, there's a lot of things that exist that aren't aware. Do you
No,
think?
no, I'm just talking about the human core driver. That's it. That's it. All I'm trying to do.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not
but
even at this point trying to distinguish human and animal. At this
I'm not
point,
either. I'm not
okay,
either.
I was preempting that.
Humans, humans, humans aren't always aware, but they exist. You're sometimes aware. Sometimes you just
It's not
exist.
about
Sometimes you're
awareness.
not aware.
It's not about awareness. The pursuit of existence does not need your awareness at all.
Correct.
Most of your
Correct.
pursuits don't even involve your awareness.
But how
Very
do
few
you?
of them.
But how do you know something exists without being aware of it?
What do you mean? I
How
think
do
you're
you?
switching what I'm probably
I'm
in a
not.
different framework of philosophical
Well, yeah.
constructs that I'm
Let's.
approaching.
It can be pretty fun though. But it's
Oh, I'm okay. Do you do
yeah.
you?
I don't. Well, what?
I expect nothing less.
All right. But just whether or not you're aware, what actually is existence? That's what I want. Yeah, maybe you should.
Existence is the I'm going to say the primal ineffable. And if
What?
part, do you know what ineffable means?
No.
Ineffable means inexpressible. So it's the primal, ineffable uh, I mean, I don't know if it is. I won't
But
suppose
if
that
it's
I've identified the root preference, but I think that this is probably pretty close to it. And that is that the preference for humans is to exist. They do not need to intellectually, ideationally understand it. It is from this primary impulse that all that other stuff forms out. And the first instinct is existence, and then you start existence begins in physicality, and then it moves out genetically and ideationally. These are the three primary realms. And then first we're seeking preservation, then we're seeking perpetuality, then we're seeking and these are generalities. There's not like everybody follows this and everybody falls into this. Like not all human beings. I think there are anomalies. Not all human beings even have this core driver, but I think the overwhelming preponderance of human beings do. And then it spreads out to now you want quality. And quality is basically securing yourself from all potential harm and imagining that you can, and having to create ideational spooks, I'll say, that allow you to do the vicious things you have to do to secure that position.
right. So that's okay. That's a lot more detailed where I was going.
But again, you were talking. You're dealing with the metaphysical question of existence, and I'm not dealing with that at all. I'm
Right.
just dealing with understanding. I'm trying to understand at least, and these are just theories. They're not anything
Oh,
but
I
that.
just that picture you sent me earlier, or you sent to the Telegram chat.
The heaven and hell thing, the angels and
Um,
demons and the authority.
no, the healthcare thing. I don't know what you
Oh, the
sent
hell!
me.
Oh, yeah. That's a platform. That's a proposed platform for a political party in America.
You just. Oh wow. Okay. Well, I thought that had something to do with the show, so I was reading.
Nope.
That ain't quite adding
But
up.
if you want to talk about it, we can. Totally. I don't care. I don't have an
I can't.
agenda.
I can't read this right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought maybe you read it and you're like, what did he say? Because it's
Well,
basically, it's using the state in all kinds of crazy ways that I'm fundamentally opposed to.
no. See, I thought it was a list of all the things you were just talking about, so I could actually follow it a little better.
No, I don't. I didn't have an agenda, dude, other than to
Oh
get you
man.
on and see what happened.
I'm
And
like, I'm sitting here going like, man, I should be taking notes.
right now,
I should, yeah.
why?
I can't keep track of all of that, man. That's a lot.
Of all what?
You your idea of existence.
Well, it's not my idea of existence. It's
Well,
it's my
your
idea.
theory.
It's my theory of what is the central impulse. I'm trying. If I could break. Obviously, I'm not describing it well. I'm being way too confusing, and it's hard to break it down, especially when it's still nascent thought. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's hard to
But
clarify.
there's three things you're talking about. The
The ideational existence, the genetic existence, and the physical existence.
right.
And the
But
idea is that
I don't think any of those are necessarily separate, you know? Well,
they're
hold on.
they're
That's not
all of it is intertwined. It's like there's never like you're never completely just dealing with a physical existential uh, impulse. There's all kinds of and wrappings. And my theory basically is that human beings are born with an impulse immediately to become God. In essence, to experience not to now when I say God is a placeholder. It's just to become, to experience a state of is, was, and always will be in complete dominion of all. Like this is the central impulse in humans, I believe. And as we come to terms with our reality of power, that's when we start to modify according to the ability of our mind to produce the perception that we're coming close to satisfying that core preference. And that core preference is the one that gives you the most dopamine rush. The human body is, in essence, we're druggies. We're all just addicted to drugs, and the ultimate
Yeah.
dopamine is the setting out of becoming in that to experience. Even I mean, because all of us have experience of time, even fleeting, had the ability to experience that notion at one moment that we really were like invincible and we were in total control of all around us, and then our body
Yeah.
said we have achieved our ultimate, and it gave us the whole endorphin, blah blah blah, whatever activities we were doing at the time, whatever social constructs we happen to find ourselves within, we'll find ourselves liking or hating according to the degree that we're able to fulfill that Godhead pursuit. And I don't mean that religious, divine Godhead.
Right. But that's all dependent on our awareness of
Not at
our
all.
point.
No,
Yeah.
no, we don't need to know at all. It's just, I believe,
But you do need to know, because if you don't know, it's not there.
you don't need to know. You don't need to know why. Oh, I don't know. I just like it. How many people say that? That's never ever true.
Right. But
You
they're not.
never ever just like it. But almost everything about us, we don't know. As a matter of fact, the degree to which people, well, what happens if you find yourself feeling that you actually have this invincibility, then you're going to gravitate more towards being God directly. And the degree to which you may find
But
impediments, you'll find yourself maybe vicariously moving that direction. And maybe if you really come to terms with just how weak and broken you are, then you pursue a being like God path, which 99.99999% of us are weak and broken. We should be pursuing the like God path, not the literal God, but the like God path, moving towards becoming, not a finality that
but
requires
what
perfection.
but what if we're aware we're not those things?
What do you mean? We're never aware, because we're only aware where we only have perceptions of notions of who we are for brief periods, but they change. You could be aware of this moment and then find yourself within whatever construct separates you from that awareness. And so for that moment, again, you're unaware. Or mostly we're
Hmm.
unaware of who we are. Mostly, I believe.
Of who we are, but what we are aware of is who we are.
No, we don't. We have no idea who we are. We only have patinas, palimpsests at best of who we are. And
Right.
hopefully, if we have the space, unfortunately, vast majority of us don't even get this much. You and I
But
are
what
fortunate.
but but what I'm saying is our existence is limited to our awareness of that existence. If we're not aware of it, it didn't. It's not there.
You don't have to be aware of when you say existence. I'm talking about the impulse to be and to always be and to always have been in complete control of the universe. This is
I,
the God particle. So if as I if go ahead.
no, I don't have. I'm just. I'm thinking. Keep going.
Okay. So if you come to terms with your limitations, then you come to realize that it is in your best interest. Why are people nice to each other? Why do people go out of their way to one another? It's mostly because they think they'll get a benefit from it, or because they fear, you know, harm. And the degree to which you come to realize that you lack the power to not suffer consequences for being a dick is the degree to which you come to realize the practicality of spreading consensual relations and consensual practices and
Yeah, but
structures with one another.
some people enjoy being dicks, though.
No, people. Well, you know what? In a way, you know what? You're right. Except what? When I say no, I'm giving my opinion. That sounded like too authoritarian. But I believe that what it is, and this is what I'm trying to get the message out about, like anybody cares, but I believe that we all continue to allow this system, this coercive enterprise governance model, because even though we fundamentally know without knowing, the ineffable knowing, we have heuristic institutions, I call them heuristic institutions within us, that have built this automated response to things that continue to legitimize a coercive enterprise system in whatever form you want to take, that not only allows for but seeks out and demands killers to run it. Killers are the people that, they go all in with being God, so to speak.
Well, people
And
that are killers are also survivors.
well, when I say killers, of course, there's all kinds of reasons that people are killers. I'm talking about the killers, the particular, I'll say the particular versions of killers that mostly end up. Well, how many human beings? Just like if you walked up to a human being and you hadn't somehow conditioned them along the way, and you said, "Here, sign this. It means 100,000 people will probably die." Like, would they sign it? Killers would. These killers would. And the system continues. What's that?
A lot of people would. A lot of people. Well,
I don't think so.
yeah.
I really don't. I think
I
a
don't
very
know.
select few would. And I mean, when I say select few, I mean there's plenty of people in terms of pure numbers, because 2%, 3% of the population is 10 million whatever people. So, I mean, I'm not saying that they don't have plenty of numbers to choose from, but you have a system that allows for these people who are the most likely, for various reasons, whether they're sociopathic or whatever it is, the people that are the most likely to have the least amount of empathy, because that's what you need to do this heavy hitting kind of stuff that
Right.
that coercive enterprises require you to do. So, yeah.
But what if it's, instead of 100,000 people die, it's you don't sign and 250,000 die?
Well, that's in part. We'll get back to that little thing I showed. That's the least harm. I think that's the best you can do in a coercive enterprise system. But on the main, the sociopaths won't be governed by the least harm. They'll be governed by the
What
whatever.
benefits them the
Yeah,
most?
what benefits them the most. Most of human history is really power struggles between select numbers of individuals. Really is. Like,
Yeah.
whole communities have been fundamentally altered. Like, you can look at Alfred the Great and call him great, and I love that guy, even though, by the standards of today, maybe he's a bit of a dick. But he came in and he basically he used his little righteous ghost that he invented, but he decided, and rightly so, for practical reasons, not for spiritual reasons, that Christianity was the vehicle of power with which he could create a people that would come and be marshaled against an enemy that was infringing on his right to enslave people. I mean, that's what freedom is. Freedom is fighting over, I want a local tyrant, not a distant tyrant. That's what freedom is mostly in history. Like,
Yeah.
So, Alfred the Great was running a narrative wrapped around Alfred the Great's pursuit of the Godhead. And that's what most of the stories are that I see in history.
And wait,
Filled with it.
People have elevated this guy. They look up to him.
Well, yeah, of course. Everybody always comes, yeah, because what he has behind him are vicarious godheads, and the vicarious when when a movement. This is why, like, for a while, the Republicans were more dangerous to the Democrats, because they found a godhead with which to live their godhead through in Donald Trump, and heaven forfend us. Heaven help us, I meant to say. Heaven help us if the Democrats, with who's running the DNC now, I should say, those folks, if they found one charismatic leader to rally on that had that magical power of creating in all the illusion of being part of of someone who is divine walking on earth. I mean, you've seen them crazy Donald Trump Jesus crap things, right? I mean, this is
Yeah,
nutty
I've
stuff,
seen a lot
dude.
of them. I don't know how. Do you really think those are real?
Oh, that's another thing. Well, you realize kind of shifting topics here if you want, but oh well, I don't really care if you want. I'm just gonna do it, and then you can shift back if you want. So fuck you.
No, I'm good. Let's
Do
go.
you realize that right now we are witnessing for the first time? This will be most likely the first time, I'm going to say. Maybe not, but most likely at at the very least, at an open and advanced level right now. I believe most of the stories that you're seeing, most of the headlines that are being written, the types of stories that are being focused on, the language being used, is being designed by AI. We are witnessing
Yeah,
AI wars in action right now.
we've created so much AI. It's beyond our grasp. It's gonna run
It's
away from
running the
us.
show.
Yeah.
It's like I believe no I believe they probably have some degree of human filtering if the AI says something really ridiculous and stupid, but I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. But I do think like the CNN and like CNN has totally trashed itself as far as it doesn't even care. It's not a viable anything.
Right.
It's just content marketing. That's all it is. That's all of this stuff is. It's all content marketing now. It's like my shows now that I'm doing, they're like, actually I put your thing on here. It's kind of triggering because I'm like I don't even want to sell shirts, dude.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
so sick of it all. I'm sick of all that. When I'm really sick now in your case, like you're not doing a show. You've been doing these designs. I'm not busting on you, my brother.
That's okay.
And
Bust away.
but I mean it's like to me like what I've decided I'm building a network. I'm building something that I hope will give me the resources to produce the shows that I want to produce. But I'm building in a way that I hope I can actually market other things like web design, other things, and make real money. But I've decided like I'm not going to try to make money at all doing this.
Yeah.
I think that the like Tim Pool, what he does, his message is becoming increasingly irrelevant because he's increasingly throttling himself to stay monetized.
All right.
And okay, I understand you decided to make this your career, which means you can't be the very thing that you kind of built your brand around. You're in a way you were, a free speech, freedom of press kind of sentinel, if you will, with a powerful voice.
Yeah, but that doesn't make money.
I know, that's right. That's my point. See, you can't be two. You can't be
No,
both, Mr. Tim. So, like, I'm just so,
he has to choose. He'd have to get a real job.
yeah, I'd have to get a real job. I mean, some people can do both. Maybe you just get so successful, or maybe if you like Tim Pool, what's he doing? I'm being really discursive tonight. I apologize, but
This what?
discursive. Just kind of wandering all over the place.
I thought that's what we were gonna do.
Oh, that's true. But I was thinking about there's this Christian principle, and it has to do with God sets the boundaries. He sets boundaries for you. This is the tent that you're going to live in. I want it to be this size. And then when you start to try to extend that tent, God will smite you dead.
That sounds awful.
Well, it's not literal. I'm just saying, the boundaries are not. This is why, like in Hebrew cultures, you had the jubilees, the resets, because they
Oh yeah.
understood building up the constant invasions of human beings' boundaries, because that's what debt is.
Yep.
Cruel of debt, especially a debt with usury. That's a constant invasion of human boundaries, and that's what we're seeing. Like, so you see Tim Pool, and he's been given a boundary. It's like, okay, I'm this YouTuber dude. I do these videos. I do some remotes. No, Tim Pool, he's got really, you know what? If I'm doing good here, I should expand. I should have a whole news organization. I should create like the platform where everybody can gather. That's immediately what we do. Like me, I've decided it's really easy when you have like 2 subscribers to do this. So I'm being really noble, but I have decided that I want to set a usable boundary. If I could build a channel like this to say 10,000 subscribers, I could probably make off of the tips through Streamlabs, whatever I could probably eventually have set up. I could probably make like 3 or 4,000 a month. If I could do that, I'd be like, I don't need to expand. I don't need to create some massive news network that everybody gets drawn under. In fact, I don't want to see any more of those news networks, man. I want to
Yeah, it's
see
an
just.
older paradigm now.
It
It's
is. It
it's so
is.
decentralized now.
Yeah.
You still need them as hubs for certain stories or whatever, but
Right.
honestly, if you had someone get really good at just writing
Here's
the
what the news networks uh, provide that the individual cannot provide easily, and I know because I ran a newspaper, so I speak with some knowing here, and that is your daily life essential information, your school closings, your shootings, your burglaries, your car crashes. These are the crucial things that you just can't cover on the cheap, other than just being an aggregator. And in that level of area, if you want legitimacy, you've got to do that yourself. If you want to be a legitimate local news person, you've got to do that part yourself. Like, I've struggled with this because I can do that, but that's very time consuming. And I'm thinking about the local news aggregation, but that's kind of difficult because if you're aggregating off of these corpo state local networks at that level, you're going to get some pushback. So that's what you have to figure out. How can you provide that service on the cheap? I've been thinking about that problem. That's the big problem.
I don't know, man.
You don't have any answers.
No, I don't have a clue.
Well, that sucks. So let me ask you something. How do
Sure.
you stand on? I mean, I'm setting you up. I know. I've been listening to you. How do you
Oh
stand
yeah.
on? I'm just. Oh, should I even do this? This is so stupid. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go into Crayon land. I'll see. Where do you stand on property?
I don't. What do you mean? Where do I stand on property?
Where have you come out in your evolution of your relationship? Because at one point, in fact, when you and I met, we were both ANCAPs.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, we kind of started there. Well, it's just simple. It's just about
Kind
properties.
of.
What do you mean?
Yeah, but I don't know. It never made sense to me.
So you never fully bought in, but you're like, well,
I've never written. No,
what
it
was
never made.
what was your reason for ANCAPing then?
I don't know. I thought that was anarchy. I didn't read any other anarchy.
Okay, so you came. Oh, you know what? You were conservative, right?
Um, sorta.
I was a conservative, and this was like, I think ANCAP was like a gentle transition for me because it
Hmm.
wasn't too radical a departure from my assumptions as a conservative about the world around me, especially regarding capitalism and property.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I don't.
good conversation, good times.
No, awful conversation. I don't know, man. There's not much to talk about. It's just, uh, I don't buy. I don't understand how anyone owns anything. I don't understand it. It's like, uh, it's so obsessed over, and I think it hinders a lot of progress. It's basically the same thing as the IP argument.
Oh man, my eyepiece. Yes.
Your IPs, but that's the same thing. It's property. It's this
See,
idea of property. But when you discuss it with capitalists, you talk about IP or whatever, they understand it's weird. Like it's like, yeah, how can you own an idea? That kind of thing. But then I think that of the way we have land ownership and stuff. It's like, how do you own an? It's owning an idea.
well, for the ANCAP, it's ownership is the primary right that everything calls from, and you own yourself. But you
Yeah, but
don't. So that's the thing.
you just don't. You
Physiologically, psychologically, all logically,
you
you do
just
not own
don't.
yourself. You
No.
only govern over a very small part of your life.
Basically, what you're aware of.
What you're aware of when you're in full command. You're like, there's a part of you at the highest level, the intel, that's why I love people who say, well, I'm only going to base my decisions on logic and reason. Oh, then
like,
you will die.
Right.
Then you will die. Yeah, you need
Yeah.
those heuristic shortcuts. And then those shortcuts build heuristic institutions. That the heuristic institution is my phrase. I came up with that one all by myself. Heuristic
So what do you
institutions.
what is a heuristic institution?
So heuristics is like kind of like, the short code learning, short code reacting. So like you're walking down the street, it's late at night, you see a black guy and he looks like an old man and he's doddering along, and immediately you're just like, nothing, you're fine. No threats, nothing. You see another black guy and he's young and he's got gold change, and you're like, you don't even have to think about it. You've already built all kinds, not even all you. It's not like you deliberately are doing this. You're getting messages from the world around you. The SJWs call this sociocultural constructs, but I think socioculture is way too simplistic because it rules out all the physiological, the endocrinological, and all that other crap that factors into what builds these heuristic institutions that make you react in that way without even thinking. And you won't even think about it. You won't even, it's not some intellectual process or anything you want to, you just knee-jerk reaction and then you're on your way. Those are heuristic institutions. They do those things. And most of our lives are governed by them. And most of what is built by them is built by other people invading our heads.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
Well, you're born and I'm born, and what do we see on TV? What I see on TV, what I saw on TV in the 70s was different than what you saw. I saw something that sent a lot stronger heuristic institutions that says people that don't look white are not serious people. That was the message I got in the 70s. So they built all those heuristic institutions. What you got in the 90s was more, I guess, they're almost as good as us. I think that's what you got in the 90s.
Right.
And sometimes they're as good as us. She's hot for a black girl, right? How many times did you hear that from people? Now, my group, I heard that a lot. As a matter of fact, I said it until I was like 16 or something, and that's when it was like, I think that's when things started to come around. You're like, wait a second, what does this mean? But I wasn't racist.
I think
I didn't make it this. Go ahead.
I missed out on that one. On that heuristic institution.
You did. You probably did then. And like I said, I was 16 when I was already starting to, like, that particular one was when I wasn't even aware that I was doing it. See, that's the thing. You're not.
Right.
Like, you're not even aware. And this isn't just about whether, it's racism or whether, whatever it is, you have these. I mean, the point being that there's so much of you that you do that you don't own. You can't say that ownership is real.
Right.
Just too much beyond you.
There's so much.
It's really, it's
way too much.
Well, the ANCAPs they describe themselves as, well, I mean, they gather around, Louis von Mises's human action, and human action. I mean, the central premise, as I understand it, and I've only read parts of it, so I'm not going to say, I'm a genius. I really don't know shit, but I like spewing shit. But that it's about getting out of the way of human action, and yet, so that means don't try to artificially, socially engineer humans in ways that fundamentally deny their actual human nature, their human relations, how they would naturally, more organically be. But yet their philosophy is built fundamentally around a flawed concept that we can absolutely show over and over in all kinds of ways. Ownership is a total construct.
Yep.
That's
and it doesn't, and I think it's carried us as far as it can. It really has.
I agree. It's an impediment at this point. And to me, it keeps giving ground to the what everybody calls the left, the authoritarian left, but it's not really the left the way I term it. But it keeps giving ground to that and giving no I'm going to say no credible counter to what the authoritarian left currently offers.
Hmm.
Because the
Yeah.
authoritarian left, to me, the DNC primarily, I say the DNC, that's the Democratic National Committee, and that is fundamentally, that's the one that has the money. So that's the one that on the main decides who is going to be a power player in the Democratic Party. And that DNC is controlled largely by whatever Citadelians are primarily pumping it up, but whatever. Anyway, that sounds conspiratorial and nutty, and I don't have receipts. I don't. I have no receipts, and
No,
just
that's
yeah.
kind of the beauty of it, is that there's
See,
there's no way to know.
there's
There's
no
no way
way
to.
to know exactly. I can only assess. I can only surmise based upon my understanding of the reality of power, which is
Right.
limited at best. I think that's the fundamental battle in America, well, in the world, in all of human history.
All of humanity. Yeah, I think that's just the battle. That's the battle of consciousness.
No, the ultimate battle between whether we'll see consensual governance actually become the norm amongst human beings, or whether we continue to rely on coercive enterprise governance that requires murder, death, and rape on a daily basis. Every
Right.
single course of enterprise requires that. Is can we cut off the honeypots that attract the certainitarian crazies? Because if they didn't have a giant, big old thing that they could gather, their commitment and their enterprise would be significantly less than it is, and I think a lot less people would die, and a lot more people would live the lives of their own choosing.
But what if more people died? What if more people had to die? What if we couldn't get to a non-coercive model unless we had less people and more space? Because a lot of what causes conflict is basically proximity.
Well,
It's being
proximity.
it's taking ideological, or taking cultures basically, and dropping them in the same location and seeing how they sort it out.
Well, I have been thinking about this, and for a while I have been on the thin the herds, not killing people, but thin the herds, as in at the very least separate people out and disperse them out of the cities. And
All right.
now,
I think once we get to space, once we get to a stage where we have, like, say, space colonies that are large enough for each community or whatever, and they can go however vast distances apart, I think that will dramatically it'll make
I think
the coercive enterprise much less relevant. It basically decentralize it. It would shrink it. It would keep us. It would go back to smaller community sizes, basically.
I believe that the issue is space, certainly, but it's not necessarily like you can have 8 million people in New York, but the space, the way that it's designed now, is what's compressing people into places where they don't have, I guess, the space to give people some boundaries and grace. Everybody's all
Yeah.
up in their face. But I think that we could redesign the cities and ways that we don't even understand yet. But we can create skyscrapers in which each layer is almost like, like with, you could have little suburbias on top of one another or something. I don't know, but I
Yeah.
think there's all kinds of opportunities. Not in this, like Bill and my brother Bill and I, we're talking about the problem. Like, okay, here's a problem with space that has nothing to do with whether it's cities or not. It has to do with how we Americans have come to divide our living spaces into these micro units called the single family unit, the
Right.
nuclear family. So we do not design space in which individuals outside of your core living area can cooperatively live together. So like I want to design these homestead acres where you have 4 or 5, maybe even 10 family units, if you will, with your own spaces, but you have shared spaces that you
Right.
operate together. I believe that those types, like that's an example of just changing the structure. So instead of having these just rows and rows of suburban single family whatevers, we're going to have, and even when it comes to like in closed spaces, in confined spaces where you can build up, you can have these types of shared spaces that you design so that multiple families are sharing spaces together. Like that's what we're missing. That's the fundamental problem that we have. All of our space is designed to be, you know, hyper individualized.
Yeah, but I mean, there are situations where that kind
Yeah.
of falls apart
Ty
depending on.
showed up. Ty said we can make tons of space and use way less water with vertical farming is one. I love vertical farming. Can also be done in urban areas also, and aquaponics and well, anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I was getting Ty's comment in there.
Oh, let me see it. Does he want to hop on?
Can you hey, you want to come join us, Ty? You can join us in the Discord. I'll drop the link if you want. No, you're right on my wavelength, Ty. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about changing. I think it's more important to change the space than it is to change the ideas. That the space will change the ideas. That I believe that our ideas primarily come from they're basically the ideas we gravitate towards are just vehicles of power that allow us to fulfill our preference, satisfy our preferences. And that if you create spaces that certain ideational structures don't work well in, that will end up changing minds more than trying to change them ideationally. So if you have a bunch of rigid individualists that find themselves in a homestead acre, within a year, they're going to start to change that whole individualist idea because they're going to experience the importance of consensual relations in in balancing out the power of the individual to be an individual in any society.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good response.
Well, I don't know,
I'm
man.
waiting for you to drop gold on me. Come on, man. Sing a song.
It's tough, man. You Oh God, you're killing me.
How am I killing you?
um. Yeah. Ba- it's tough, man. I have
What's
so many ideas. I have too. I'm thinking too much at once. That's the problem.
Yeah, yeah, I know it's hard for me as I got issues when it comes to thoughts in my head. I got like 30 of them at once. It was like
But
my
yeah.
poor daughter.
Oh, why? What are you doing? What?
There's no simple conversation with that.
Oh
Everything
no.
turns into an existential exploration. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good thing though, as long as it's
Yeah,
digestible.
I was telling her today that I'm preparing her to be. Well, at first I said I was preparing her to be John Connor. I mean, to be Sarah Connor. And then I realized, no, I'm Sarah
No.
Connor. She's John Connor. And then no, I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger, and my wife is Sarah Connor. I am T2. That's what I've decided.
Wow. That's awful.
What? Is it awful to be T2?
Yeah, isn't it?
No, I'm protecting them.
I guess,
I
yeah.
am protecting them until, I do feel like that. I feel like, one of the primary roles that I see for my life is to get my daughter to defendable legal adult age so that the state has considerably less power over her than it does now. Like that's one of my primary motivations. Just get her to
That's
that
it.
point. That's really important.
So now, do you think that is actually a symptom of the way the space is designed, like
Uh,
the
our space?
the single family unit, and the way that works with the schools and it works with the way they have power over children.
It keeps us all divided. It keeps us
Yeah.
all hyper individualized and hyper suspicious. You have little reason to care if your neighbor doesn't like you. I mean, you don't want your neighbor to hate you, but you know, if your neighbor thinks you're a jerk, you don't really all that concerned. But if you guys are growing corn together, then that matters more. And you
Right.
have to develop more consensual tools. You have to develop peacemaking tools when you're cooperating with others. When you're not cooperating, and I don't like the word cooperating, but I mean, I'm not saying necessarily that it's a bad word. But
When you're not doing what we want.
see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Cooperating is, you applied for a Burger King job and you accepted the job, and now you're complaining. I mean, you're cooperating. They're cooperating. You consented. You
Right.
consented. No, you didn't, because that's not consensuality. Because there's
No.
significant imbalances of power going on there.
Hell yeah, they're
And
missing. They're not aware of the heuristic
institutions,
thingamajigs institutions. There you go.
right? Right. That's just it. They're not. They're not aware of
They're not.
all the heuristic institutions within them that cause them to react in this knee-jerk way. It's just like, how I used to react as a conservative, because I had all these heuristic institutions in me too about, it's really simple, cartoon simplicity. Less government is better. Always go for less government. And then I started thinking about regulations, like instead of like this linear thing, this clean thing, regulations are more like, it's like a Jenga tower, you know?
Yeah.
When you pull I mean, just say the Jenga tower is, I want to advantage the pores. That's me and you. We're the pores. And my internet desktop has throttled down majorly. Maybe I have to come. Hey, you can come on with your phone, man.
Yeah.
Just click on the link on your phone. Do you have? Wait, did the Discord app? I don't even have Discord app on my phone. I don't use it on my phone.
He has Discord.
Discord app. Oh gosh, that's stupid.
I think he has Discord.
But anyway, so I look at regulation. Like, do you need jerk just support? Donald Trump is going to cut regulations. Which ones? And the cartoon character response is, I don't even think about it. Oh yeah, less, of course, less, because principles and standards, and I think the principle and standard that I'm most operating on when it comes to any kind of governance advocacy, and I only advocate governance within this framework of this course of enterprise, which I do not approve of, but I'm stuck in it. I advocate for the least harm to the degree to which you can actually figure that out. And like you said earlier,
100,000 versus 200.
How do you know? What if you're wrong?
Right. What if you're wrong and you just killed 1 million people?
Right. And you could. And you're like, but
it
I don't
happens
know.
all the time.
Happens all the time. People just explode. That's a
They
line.
really do.
That's a line from Repo Man. Did you ever see that movie?
No.
Oh my gosh, you never seen the movie with Emilio Estevez, Repo Man?
Nope.
Harry Dean Stanton?
Nope.
They're investigating these people who are literally combusting, like spontaneous combustion across the country. And they're chasing this guy who has allegedly has this car that has an alien or something in it. And they're trying to find the car. And it's like, for a Repo Man, it's the honey deal, because they're going to get a lot of money if they get this car. And they're chasing down this guy, and he just kind of talks like this, and he's a little crazy, and he's driving along talking like this, and the car is glowing, and it's getting a little crazier. And then they keep investing. At one point, they're like, hey, did you see this? They're just walking along, and they just exploded. I mean, you just see that? And then the lady says, yeah, happens all the time. People just explode. I mean, that's I went a long way just to explain that, didn't I?
You did.
I hope it was worth the journey, dude. I think it was worth the journey. I'm gonna see if Ty gets in here. Come on, Ty.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to Ty. I haven't talked to Ty on face to face, like in this thing. We're gonna have like.
Yeah, he has Discord. He should get on. He should be getting on.
Mr. Ty's. Let me see if he's approaching the sunset hour. Let us see. I don't have any labels for Bodhi. All I have is his tacky thing he's hawking. Tacky.
What does that mean?
Your tacky shirts. Oh, I never did do the shirt thing where I advanced, didn't I? Oh, let me do that.
No.
Let me do that. I forgot that. Let me whore
Uh,
you right. Let me whore you right. A little more. All right.
yeah, do it.
View
All right.
all.
So
Oh, there
hold
you
on.
go. Oh, view all. Here we go. View all.
So I'm curious of something.
Go ahead.
So these heuristic institutions, they might as well, they're basically a symptom of what preferences.
Heuristic institutions are produced as the whatever internality is creating the shortcuts designed to help you more quickly satisfy your preferences in the hierarchical order they are within it.
Okay.
Whatever they that would be I guess my theory is that would be determined by the level of pleasurable and or for reverse painful negative chemical biofeedbacks that are delivered to you. So that's you may have an initial reaction to something and your body immediately says, okay, that's really good, let's work towards that, guys, that looks like a winner, or dude, that sucks, let's. And then you see things like when I'm watching TV shows in the 70s and I see nothing but black drug dealers, my mind is looking and saying, hey man, this guy definitely does not prefer to be a drug dealer, black people are bad.
Right. It
You know
just
what I mean?
programs
I haven't done that. I
programs
haven't
your brain.
said, and then it programs my brain to start thinking about. I mean, basically, the problem with all people who were not white until very, very recently is that none of them had gravitas. They always had a reduced sense. They didn't have the full gravitas of white people. Now they do.
Right.
Well, for most of us now they do. But I mean, those heuristic institutions, they're not good or bad. They don't have an opinion. They just provide a quick way for you to satisfy your preferences.
Right. But do you think those are actual, do you think they can be controlled by institutions? What level of control do we have over these?
Over heuristic institutions. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I've used
There's
cognitive behavioral therapy to. I think you can actually reprogram your mind to degrees, but it's just not. It's not a question of like, oh, well, you know what? I have this weird stigma that I have for short people with eyes that have like this little fold under them. Like people can have like a weird. I'm just gonna say something like that. Whenever I see short people with this fold, and I realize how I'm acting. I'm actually like, for some reason I don't like them, and I just immediately, like, I start to treat them in negative ways, and I'm just noticing it. People are telling me, oh man, that's terrible. I don't really feel like short people with eyes with the flaps under them like that should be treated in that way. But and then you go out, and it's a long process of D. I guess D. This is where I think the SJWs are right in a lot of ways. They have a lot of programs that are designed for this to help you overcome these, what they call, I don't like their social culture constructs, but again, I think that's too simplistic. But their problem is they take that. That's kind of like it's a discipline. SJW to me, in essence, is a discipline. It's a way for you to get closer to. Well, I don't know. I don't know ultimately what they claim. They don't claim consensuality. They claim crap, I think, like at the core, like justice and diversity and crap
right.
words like that mean nothing to me. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care about diversity or justice or nobility or good or evil. I care about consensuality for practical reasons, and those practical reasons are I am not Superman. If I was
Right.
Superman, I wouldn't care about consensuality. But since I know I'm not, I really want everybody else to have a good time around me. And me too, so we can all be like, good. If my neighbors are having a good time and I'm having a good time, my neighbors don't care, that I don't like gay people. I'm not saying I don't, I'm just saying. Or my neighbors don't care that, I don't like short people with flaps under their eyes. As long as I'm not
Right.
fucking with them.
Yeah.
If I start fucking with them, then my neighbors will care. But other than that, man, we're all having a good time. We can get along with jerks. I think we can get along with jerks, Bodie.
Yeah, I can get along with jerks. I've It's possible. I
As
just
long
don't think
as
it's.
they're quiet jerks.
Yeah. Oh, Ty. Did you see Ty joined?
Ty, say something. There, where are we at? Where's the Discord here? Where is the Discord? Say something, Ty. Speak. Speak.
It says he's on mobile.
This is terrible. Probably the worst thing that's ever happened to this show.
Yeah. Yeah. This is awful.
I thought this was going to be the best show ever. I thought you were going to ride in and
No,
save us all. And
I can't really save us. I'm still trying to imagine how we could design spaces to combat these heuristic institutions.
well, the fundamental heuristic institutions that we need to overcome are the ones that are framed around. I'm really reaching here. I'm really less certain about what I'm about to say than anything else I've said so far. But generally, I think that the biggest, we have to produce reasons for people to see how fundamentally beneficial it is to actually be good neighbors. That's the key. Like learning to be good neighbors, especially because you have to. Like that'll really teach you good. And so you build structures that require neighborly cooperation in ways that they're not governed. They're not. It's not. It's commute. It's. So some you have your individual ownership for your space, such as that ownership, quote
Right.
ownership, and then you have the shared ownership, and it's not government collective. It's not bureaucratic from on high, programmatic collective. It's individuals that actually have to live it out right here in front of one another. This consensual collective part of their living, and that means that they're going to have fights. And
Oh yeah. Well,
since
especially if you're designing a space that forces them to work
yeah,
together.
yeah, and they're
That
going to have to, and it'll happen. What'll happen is I mean, and you think about the other thing is like if you're in this community and you keep causing friction, you're out. They'll
right.
they'll ostracize you bigly, like you're gone. So yeah, you're going to have to learn to be a peacemaker if you're going to live in these communities, and we don't have to be peacemakers.
Unless there are communities that exist that don't really care. Like you could be an asshole.
All right, so I see.
There might.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, of course you're going to have crap. Crappy people do crap. Somebody will build a tiny little cult community that'll, commit suicide. Everybody will die because they'll all commit suicides.
That's a self-correcting problem.
Right, right.
That's not
It's like that's where we want. We would love to have some methodology where the truly homicidal jerks amongst us could find a community where they can all practice their killing on one another. You know,
the
you
problem
know.
is there probably wouldn't be enough of a advantage to doing that to actually permit that exists. That's why we have
See,
everything else.
I guess I'm of a belief that I don't think we're ever going to have any unless things really change technologically. The best that we're going to have is we're going to have small communities that are able to sufficiently enough uh, wean themselves off of dependence off of all the corpo state structures. So they've got their own DNS servers, their mesh networks. Oh, I want to get MeshTube. Somebody buy meshtube.com and let's create MeshTube. So instead of YouTube, so the idea is what we have are a whole bunch of locally owned and operated servers that are meshed together that we now have our own actual viable, true public video platform, video engaging platform.
Hmm.
So there's a mesh solution instead of everybody's looking for the next billionaire to come up with the next great idea. The billionaires are the fucking problem. Like, I can't stand Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I think she's a little fucking mini Hitler in the making, her own brand of Hitlerism. But
Is she a billionaire?
no, no. But she was right when she said that it's immoral to have billionaires. It is. I mean, not that I'm big on morality, but I mean, for my morality, for my Christian morality, I think it's highly immoral. I just like as I think about the idea of having $10 billion and wanting more. I'm sorry, that person is a fundamental threat to the safety of everyone. That
Yeah,
guy
I
or
think so.
gal is willing to control the lives of how many people's lives are controlled in that $10 billion. If you think about, stop thinking about money and just thinking about what it represents. It represents real power
Right.
that touches human lives.
Yeah, it affects a lot of people. That's that whole mentality of trickle down economics. They basically take that and then try to turn it into a nice thing.
Trickle
It's like
down, yeah, trickle down economics is, I think
it's tentacles. It's tentacles. That's what it is. That's all.
it's tentacles. It's not trickling down. It's reaching down and taking up.
Right.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, I think trickle down economics, though, it's fundamental. It's like I've seen this in Saudi Arabia. The House of Saud is now trying to change its brand, and they're trying to portray themselves as, so their Aramco, the oil company, is, they want to make it go public, because if it goes public, it's going to get them these gazillions of dollars. Basically, the House of Saud has been treating a significant portion of people like shit, and they've been paying off everybody else with massive social programs, and they're
Yep.
running out of money. So they need to sell this Aramco, and in so doing, they're trying to rebrand their name. And this gets back to trickle down economics. I didn't forget it. They're rebranding themselves as, we take our responsibility of being stewards of the people of the people of Saudi Arabia's wealth. That's trickle down economics. It's an arrogant assumption. It's kind of, in a way, it's a Calvinist notion that if you're prosperous, you're blessed by God. Success is your success is your ordainment. That's it. Success is your ordainment, and they want to keep that ordainment, and that's trickle down economics. It's the continued ennobling of the billionaire class, so that you don't ever process what billions of dollars means.
It's basically the modern divine right of kings.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. You got it. You nailed it. That's exactly what I'm saying. It is the new divine right of kings, and it's the billionaire that now has more. You know, we have the Bill of Rights, and it protects us against state power, but it does not. Well, ostensibly, okay. Obviously, ostensibly, but that ostensible protection, trust me, is more than anywhere else. It's a fundamental advantage that America has over the rest of the world. That assumption within human beings, this thing called the Bill of Rights. Never mind how vague it is or how real it is. Trust me, that assumption is a real power. And what was I saying? Just billionaires.
Divine right of kings.
Oh, yeah, the divine. So, so the billionaire class, they're creating legitimacy based upon success, so that none of you process that $1 billion, commanding $1 billion means you have more power to control the lives of human beings than the state does. Although you and the state are one. Trust me, you're not a billionaire if you and the state aren't one. So now this you and the state are one, and now you can use the so-called free market to do it. This is where you get the cooperation shit. So you working at Burger King, you knew the terms. That's the only fucking kind of jobs that there are. The only kind of fucking jobs are the ones where I have to sign a shitty deal. That's not consensus.
No,
That's cooperation, and cooperation
it's not.
is not consensus.
Right.
So
That's not. It's definitely not freedom.
yeah, that's not freedom. Hey, Ty's talking. I hear it says that
Is
he's
it?
talking, but I don't hear you. How is
I
that
see it,
possible?
but I think his mic's just on,
If you're
but it
with
might
me,
be really
man, I
loud.
really wish Ty could join us, and you guys would love Ty if he actually just shows up. And he's not going to. He doesn't
Nope.
care. He
I don't
doesn't
know how
even
the
bother
mobile.
typing to let us know that he's alive. He's still with us. I was a little worried about him recently
Yeah,
with all that firing out there.
fires.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah. That's and that's being blamed on socialism by the
Yeah.
right, the so-called right. They're all right wingers, but whatever.
Well, anything that happens in California is because of the
Because
socialists.
socialists, yeah, because
Right.
socialists. I mean, I can't take anyone seriously that
I can't
ever
anymore.
is if you say
I used to
cultural
be.
Marxism is destroying this country, I'm like, where's the?
You're
How do I change the channel? Quick,
right.
leave, get away. I get sucked
How
into
do I
Dom.
delete you?
Oh no, you're boomering. No, I didn't. Okay, boomer.
Okay,
I'm looking at
boomer.
your shirt there. Yeah, actually, right there it says it. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I haven't checked to see if I made any sale. I got a lot of traffic with that.
These are the CJW sacred cows. Ownership,
See,
capitalism, culture justice warrior thing. Although again,
oh,
I'm not necessarily against culture justice warriors either. Any more than I are social justice. I'm only against the authoritarians. The ones that are really rigid and certain and want to apply their standards to everyone and insist that everyone in the world, all we have to do is everybody has to sign up and be a reflection of this morality, whatever it is.
all right.
And then we're good. And I'm
Yep.
not going to sign up for that. I'm just not going
Yeah.
to.
I found a couple more natural law people the other day.
Oh no, I haven't swum in that world in a while. Is this
Uh,
that legal man? Oh, no, okay, go ahead. Oh, Mark Del Pasio stuff.
Mark Passio. Yeah,
Did I say Del Pasio? You know what?
I think you did say.
You know what? I like it. He should change his name. And now,
You
ladies and
should.
gentlemen, Mark Del Pasio. Come on, that's way
Yeah,
better.
that sounds a lot better.
Yeah,
Actually, I
yeah.
might actually listen to him if you have that.
If you said your name is Mark Del Pasio, I'd be like, I gotta check this out.
Yeah, at least it's not Mark Passio.
At least you're not Mark Pasio, because that guy's a butt, a giant butt. I don't listen. I listen to me. Mark Pasio sounds like the worst of the SJWs. He has a whole list of codes and
Yep.
scriptures and definitions and very particular methodologies too.
Right.
That's why
Well, and then when you don't see it, their followers think you're just
right.
not you're not looking. You can't accept it yet. It's like, what, dude? Do you realize what you sound like right now?
Right.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
say,
So
oh, I
Zonia,
don't.
tell me about your natural. What happened?
That was yeah, we just did. That was exactly what happened.
That was it.
Yeah.
There was. Wait, I don't even know what happened. He said Mark Del Pasio.
No, we didn't say Mark Del
What'd he
Pasio. What did we
say?
say? Fuck, I don't even. It was basically saying that if I don't understand natural law, it's because I just haven't seen it yet.
That was it.
Yeah,
Oh man, that
that was pretty much it.
that cuts off that conversation. That's the end of that. That's how you walk away. Although I can see actually sometimes where you would say that, and you might actually be saying the truth. There are
It could
times
be.
when like I think you do. Well, just think about this. If you tried to even start a conversation with a natural law person that began with the notion that ownership is a crock, like,
Right.
do you think you're gonna have a conversation with them, or you'd be like, you
No,
know what,
I'm not gonna
never
even
mind.
bother.
Right, right. That's what I mean. So who knows? Maybe they're right, or maybe whatever. I don't necessarily begrudge them for doing that. I just say that that's not it, Chief.
Right.
You may be zooming yourself right now. I'm just
Yeah.
maybe some self zooming and whatnot going on, and we don't want that, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want that at
No.
all. Yeah.
It's just
So
it's too intangible. That's the thing.
yeah, that's the
Even for it to ever be a paradigm shift or to be anything, it has to be more tangible. It has to be more accessible, and it's just not.
so I have a belief that whenever we whenever we spread ideas out there, we spread opportunities for others, that for these vehicles of power. A vehicle of power is just
An idea.
whatever ideational constructs like naturally favor what you're good at or what your alliance is good at, whatever it might be, or what advantage you and or your alliance has, your coalition, your faction, whatever you belong to. So when you put out moral constructs, the greater your declaration of certainty, and the greater your declaration of punishment for transgression, the more likely you are to find yourself in a short order led by the most vicious of vicious human beings, who will take your movement and turn it into a vehicle of power wholly centered around advantaging them and them alone. And they can do it because people fundamentally want to be this Godhead, and they need a clear definition of the people that they are allowed to transgress against, because in order to sustain that level of Godhead perfection, you're going to have to whack people off. And
Right.
you
But
and
you
I
need
know
that. They
what?
need to preserve that vehicle even if they can't use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I am getting less and less interested in even articulating moral constructs to people, other than always within frameworks of high uncertainty.
Right.
of like when I'm
Fl- fl-
presenting my ideas, I'm like, I'm an idiot, but these are my thoughts. It's a conversation I want to have, not a declaration of laws.
yeah, that's why
Because
a flexible morality is better suited for survival, I think.
I think that the only way that you can not have a flexible morality, so to speak, is if you're surrounded by everyone who thinks like you, and America is not that. And this is the grand. See, I know it sounds. I actually believe in America.
Yeah, I believe in America too. I just
No, I believe in
I I,
America.
bel-
I,
I
be-
believe it exists.
I believe that there exists in America a significant portion of individuals that cross all the lines that we have. That at their core, at some fundamental, I'm going to say heuristic institutional level, maybe, they understand the practical usefulness of the ideational constructs of the Bill of Rights as a fundamental check against those who wield what separates a citadelian or from you and I, the poors. It's their ability to master the force resources in their favor with impunity, I guess you could say, or yeah, with impunity.
Yeah,
I think I used that right. So
I think you did.
I think I did. I hope I did. Basically,
Oh well.
without fear of recompense. They know, and the citadelian of all citadelians is the ones that can expect this freedom no matter where they go in the world, for the most part. Maybe if they go to China, they might get whacked, but outside of that, or Chinese. Actually, if you're Chinese, you probably have more likely chance that you could actually be a citadelian around the world, not just here. But actually, in
Yeah.
China, there's only one citadelian. In China, you only have one citadelian in China.
Who's that?
Chairman Z. That's it. Everybody else is now subject to a death warrant by Chairman Z. Like, that exists now. He is.
Really?
Yeah, he's the absolute authority now. He is the Lord and Master. 2017 is when everything changed. You got to read about it. And read about social. Did you know anything about socialism with Chinese characteristics?
No.
Yeah. That's what they're changing to in 2017. Now that's a phrase they had before, but he's revising it, and he's pointing it back into a more nationalist, socialist kind of slant. He's pushing it away from the Confucian strain towards the legalistic strain. Do you
Oh,
know anything about Chinese legalism?
no.
You don't?
Nope. Lay it on me.
Okay, Chinese legalism is an interesting thing. In America, we have rule of law, I guess you could say. We have our rule of law standard. And the idea is that law that comes after it, it has to be subject to the law it came before, precedent. In
Right.
China, Confucianism is based more on precedent. Legalism is based more on equal process of law, but the law itself has
Equality.
it has no obligation to precedent. So the law is defined by the emperor, and the emperor is expected to define law in a way that will harmonize the land and the people together so that they reflect the kingdom of heaven here on earth. And
Ooh.
you know anything about this stuff?
No, that sounds awful.
It is. And this is China. This is their
Jesus.
well, I mean, they have a long history of it.
That's
They were national socialists. I'm using that term somewhat loosely, but what national socialism is in essence, blood and soil. That's China. That's the mandate of heaven. Literally
so
called the
they're not
mandate of heaven, huh?
so they're Nazis.
They were Nazis before Nazis. They started being Nazis between 1000 BC and 0 AD, or what you heathens say, BCE and CE.
Yeah.
Yeah, they I I don't know if you want to hear this. I can tell you something about my theory about why China became a hyper uh master of the state, of the coercive enterprise system, like the first, from 1000 BC to 0 AD, they had learned everything that anyone would ever learn probably about the state and about
They
all the
had
different models. They
they
went through
had
it all,
more
man.
they had more awareness of the heuristic institutions.
No, that's not it.
You don't think that's it?
Nothing to do with it whatsoever. They're not any more enlightened than anybody else. They're just as stupid as us. Nothing to do with that. No better, no worse. It's just their circumstance. No, this is Paul theory, not anything else. I'm not, you know. But generally, my supposition is the food that they were able, basically the rice, the fish, whatever in combination, they were able to produce large quantity of food relatively easy at a time when nobody else could come close to that. And they were able to propagate at high levels. They were producing massive amounts of humans, wave upon wave. One of the reasons that wars died down in the West and in the Middle East is because they ran out of people. China never ran out of people, so it was just hyper all war all the time and all this. Hey, Ty! I think
Oh God, there's a massive echo.
there is a massive echo. I have constructed myself from echoes. But anyway, it's because, hey, Ty, it's because they can continue to produce body bags that they became masters of all of the aspects of the state before Christ was born. So before Christ was born, all these conversations, so many of the conversations that are even being had today, all these innovative quote unquote leftists, and they're really right wingers, but that's another, but all these so-called leftists spewing all these arguments about why it is that we should expect censorship and hate speech laws and all these arguments were made 2,000 years ago.
Right.
Like, there is literally nothing new under the sun. The Chinese pretty much went through it all because they just had body bags. So all the wars didn't stop it. That's my theory. Welcome to the show, Ty. Ty?
Can you speak?
Hello?
Hey.
So what do you?
I'm on here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you been listening? I'm assuming you've been listening to the gold that Bodhi's been dropping.
I don't even know how to turn off my Discord on my phone now.
That's weird.
You can't just close it.
So you are now on
On
in
is
two.
the one that
Wait, are
created
you on in two
Discord info.
places? This is so cool. I can
Has
mute
my
one
phone
of
and
them.
my desktop.
Wait, which one is your phone? Is it the black and white or
The
the?
black and white one is the phone.
All right, I think I can mute
Boot 'em.
him. I'm going to mute him right now. So there. How's that, Ty?
That's better.
Yeah.
Way
Oh yeah,
better.
yeah. There you go. Yeah. I just muted Ty. I feel good about
Awesome.
that. I didn't think I'd get to do that today, but I worked that into my bucket list. So Ty, what do you think of the Chinese?
No good, actually. I don't like China. Or
The state.
the Chinese is good. The state is
Oh
itself is
yeah,
not.
yeah. I got no issue against any, people groups. I hate states, not people groups. This is like I love Israel. I love the Israeli people. I can't stand the Israeli state. Can't stand it. It's a thug state.
It's a very thug state.
It's a thug state.
It's a very fascist state too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, extremely. Like ethno-fascist. Like it's like that word Nazi. It's an interesting word because it's like I always thought. I mean, I'm coming to realize that what you National Socialist. I mean, that's the phraseology. They should drop the word socialist, but National Collectivist. How about that? Nationalist collectivist. I don't know, but it's not just about Germans and Jews. There's all kinds of Nazis.
Oh, there's tons of Nazis.
Tons of Nazis.
Germans and Jews. Yeah, and fascism. It kind of goes a little further back than the Germans.
Oh, it goes way. Well, I was telling Bodhi it goes back to the Chinese. 2,000 years ago.
Different forms of fascism, but they didn't call it fascism at the time.
Well, I don't really care about what labels people use. I care about like the
idea.
the constructs, the actual mechanical constructs, and what do they look like, and what assumptions do you have to have about human beings to carry forth these types of systems. You have to have a fascistic, authoritarian mindset.
It's actually fascism is actually more like ultra or hyper nationalism.
So, what would be the difference between nationalism and ultra hyper nationalism?
I don't like nationalism itself.
Oh, I know. I don't think
different.
anybody in this conversation likes nationalism.
No.
No nationalism.
But they are different. Where hyper nationalism, they use certain histories or cultures or sometimes even race to pump their state power, to give the state more power or more backup from the people by using those concepts, and it becomes hyper or like ultra nationalism.
So they basically grab extra heuristic institutions.
They grab them by the pussy.
Yeah.
Right, they grab a bunch of them.
They grab a bunch of them.
So would you say that a state is basically how much society is aware of the heuristic institutions and who commandeers them?
No. The state is the result of people wanting to be in that position. They allow it because they want to be it. So they want to eventually be the killers deep down.
That's what I just.
Oh, I didn't read it that way. I'm sorry. I must have understood you right.
They want to be a group of society, their awareness of the heuristic institutions and using those to shape that position of power. That's the vehicle, are those institutions.
Well, nobody controls all of these institutions. They just
I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying
to influence enough of them
exactly.
to get the result.
But
Yes, exactly. They're manipulating. Like I said, your mind is
but you
being
have
raped.
you have to be aware of them if you're going to use them for your advantage. Otherwise, they're going to use you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you are either, and so for most people that allow it, though, they are in the flow. they're not commanding, because if they were commanding, they would realize that their reality of power is such that they're one of the 99.9999999 whatever percent that have not a chance in hell of ever achieving that goal, and you're
Right.
just suiciding your own kind by continuing to endorse this shit.
Yep.
So to speak. And by your own kind, I mean we the poors, the people
Right.
who don't have access to the force resources that either protect us or, well, protect us in essence, whether we're being protected from assault or assaulting our political enemies. That's where it's at, Ty. It's about getting to the Citadelians, dude, or rendering them obsolete by no longer needing any other systems or some combination thereof. And then Ty said, "I'm leaving."
Yeah, that's how it is. They use people to give that few elite or people on top a form of power by making them think that they're empowering the people that they're talking to, whether through ideas of culture, traditions, or race.
Heroes and villains, dude. That's primarily whatever vehicles they use, whether it's race, whether it's cultures, whatever it is. It's just heroes and villains. They need heroes and villains. You need to believe that you're part of the hero class in order
Right.
for you to kill the villain class, and they need you to kill the villain class because they require killing to have their power.
Well, that's what power is.
Well, power to me is just simply the ability to influence action. But there's a high level of concentration of power, force power, lethal power. When I say legitimate, I mean culturally, not objectively, but legitimate termination power over people's lives. Like that's where it's at, man. If you don't have that, you're just one of the poors. You can have $1 billion and be one of the poors. If you're in China and you have $1 billion, you're one of the poors.
Basically, yeah.
Basically.
I think that's what people don't understand.
Well, because
is that, yeah.
I think because, well, we rooted in the money. The money isn't the point. I mean, the money is a huge factor in them getting. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the primary vehicles. It is, but it's not the ultimate route. The root is the lethality that they can command, and they can command the lethality because people want to be them.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
That's my supposition.
Money is not really an issue. It's more, it falls under like the accumulated enclosures that happen, and you need money to gain resources. The more if land opens up and we remove all these borders between, even in raw land, they draw borders everywhere. It's like it's all done through bureaucracy.
It's because we're
People don't even realize
primarily
it.
we're primarily authoritarian in our wiring. But go ahead.
So you have to buy raw land, like nothing built on it. So everything is enclosed. So we have enclosure laws. And the enclosure laws is what makes people struggle for money, and the money, use the money to gain resources. So we're slaves, pretty much.
Well, these whatever enclosure laws, they do something to help enforce. Like before you got on the show, buddy, and I was talking about the structures. Like you go down suburbia and you go down rows and rows of homes, hyper individualized space structures that produce hyper individualized realities, which are very isolating and very empowering to the central powers that are supplying most of your wants and needs. It's like America, they have the Bill of Rights not because noble people came together and said, wow, man, we better do something to check the power of the federal government. They have the Bill of Rights because, like, these fucking idiots are going to tear this shit down if we don't do something to appease these motherfuckers. Like, and the reason they had to say it was because Americans still, on the main, still made their own, hunted their own, built their own. And that's the bottom line. And we can't do that hyper individualized. We can only do that with individual space with collective space combined. We have to have those types of structures where we're integrating the collective space with the individual space, so we can actually build and make and whatnot.
Do you think those spaces don't exist on purpose, or do you think those spaces don't exist because of preference? Like it's a symptom rather than a.
I think, I don't know who's zooming who, but my suspicion is the initial nudges came. I think the initial nudges come from how we define space in our public schools. Like that was a huge part of redefining space and our notion of space. How we herded our kids into these little shells, and where we separated them by age. We separated everyone, separated, quarantine, separation, quarantine, separation, quarantine. That's what we did, like early on in the start of the 20th century, when we started doing that. And then that's when you start to get the redesigns and the suburbias and all that. So I think the schools came first. I think they're the ones that planted the seed for the new space. That's my theory. I just thought of it just now. So it could be total BS.
I don't know. I think it goes the other way.
Could. I think it's difficult to tell. It could be what created what? Was it the emergence of a hyper individualized thought? I don't really believe that, though. And the only reason I don't believe that is because I fundamentally don't believe that human beings are led by intellect and ideational powers. I think they're fundamentally led by their core preferences, and they have little care for ideational constructs.
I don't know. I think it's a lot more complex. I think there's degrees, and I don't know.
Degrees of
influence.
Yeah, there's degrees, I think it's an unsettled question that'll probably always remain unsettled. Who's zooming who? It's always the question, isn't it? Who's zooming who?
Yeah, I don't know what zooming is.
Who's zooming who? Who's moving? Who's moving the other?
Right.
Who's zoning in and move? Who's got one up on the other? Who's the power?
Who is the power?
Or
maybe
Go ahead.
Sometimes it's not. Sometimes people get moved not by influence, but also by a frustration too. So it depends, like what's really going on. Sometimes we can conflate a movement that's saying they're getting influence, but probably sometimes movements are appear because of frustration, like what's going on in Chile and in some different countries.
Bolivia, what's going on
So
there?
that's not even influenced by the state or anything. So it's a whole, like, what you call a spontaneous situation.
Well, it's not spontaneous.
And how we can separate spontaneousness and influence too at the same time.
It's spontaneous, I guess, in the sense that when it first manifests itself, it came out more fully formed, but I don't think it's spontaneous. I think it's a process of dissatisfaction, of an inability to satisfy preference within these constructs that we're changing, or constructs that were not changing but were grinding you down more and more, and it was getting to the point. That's fundamentally what's, I believe, is at root. The ability of a structure to satisfy preference will determine the degree to which it'll have dissent. The cost of dissent is high, so the cost of dissent only comes from pain being felt at the real living level.
So, like the heuristic institution of, I don't know, dinner, like dinner time.
Yeah, if you mess that up, that'll fuck somebody's life up.
It could.
Because that's like a stabilizing force in their lives to have that. That gives them a sense of eternality. That's existence. That's an existential preference that you're knocking out.
Right, it's pretty important, but did anyone design it per se, or is that is more of a result of our physical needs, I guess, right?
I don't pretend to know, like, what is at the root of that like, is it what does that mean, physical needs?
I
think we have endocrinological needs. By and large, we have nerve, sensory, and endocrinological needs. That's what we have.
Yeah. But did you know that like breakfast itself is basically a conspiracy?
I do know.
We-
It's designed to sell more eggs and bacon.
Right.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's real. There's actually 3 breakfasts.
Oh, you got 3. Are you a Hobbit?
Dude,
You're a
I'm
Hobbit.
down with 3 breakfasts, although I'll probably be up in weight soon, but that's another
Yeah.
matter.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right,
was that Edward Bernays? Was he behind that breakfast thing? I mean
I
the
don't know
whole
who.
all of the food pyramid was designed. I mean, it's the way I call the government a coercive enterprise, because it is what people don't realize, and I know you guys do. Government is totally about drawing in more value for the individuals using the legitimacy of a government cover to to market to us in coercive ways. Clever
Well, yeah,
marketing. You
they're
know,
trying to.
Struggle more for money and to get those things met.
well, I don't
Pretty
think
much.
I mean, money is just one vehicle, but the ultimate for most of these people is to experience at some level, directly and or indirectly, some level of Godhead, of being the power, the everlasting power. Like, that's primarily what these people are mostly wired to pursue at especially at the federal level. I mean, at the lower level, you may find some other stuff going on, but I mean, especially at the federal level, that's their primary motivation. Like, and that's and even amongst the ones that are in that hall, who are the ones that are going to get to the top? It's the ones that behind the doors are knifing their opponents.
Yeah.
It's the knifers that get up. It's like, why, how many times, nice guys don't get pay raises, so to speak,
Because they don't kill people.
because they don't aggressively do whatever they got to do to make themselves look good, even if it means deception.
Right.
People who have no problem, who have little empathy for others, are much more inclined to be deceptive with them.
Learn how to be deceptive when you have a top-down vertical structure kind of systems and different
Right.
things.
And
Yeah,
so
it's hard, it's hard to look up.
You have a structure that rewards
Yeah.
it, that demands it. Like, the best leaders
Yeah.
are deceptively. Like, I'm so sick of. I
Yep.
mean, I'm so sick of marketing, because marketing is fucking lying. Why do we need to create an artificial need for some schmuck to buy some useless fucking product?
Right. And like, why do you advertise games with videos that they don't represent the actual gameplay? Have you seen that?
Because we human beings have somehow, we human beings have somehow allowed for this space, as long as it's marketing, as long as it's the free market, as long as it's capitalism, as long as you're just trying to make business, as long as it's nothing personal, it's okay for you to fuck people over and lie to them.
Right.
Like, that's something
Pretty
wrong with
messed
that.
up. Yep.
Yeah, it's a fundamental problem. All right, I think I'm gonna. I think Bodhi, you sound like you're leaving me. So
I want to go eat dinner.
all right, so we're gonna wrap this up. Ty,
Why
do you have
brought
any?
dinner?
That's why I brought up dinner.
Ty, do you have any last words to say for this is on my iState channel, so it's my massive iState crowd.
I kind of wanted to say some stuff earlier with some other stuff, but it's already off topic and stuff.
All right,
But,
well,
it's just
Bodhi,
me, Ty.
Bodhi, you can leave. I'll talk to Ty a little longer if you
Yeah.
want, Ty.
You keep the show going. Maybe I'll go watch it while I eat.
I want to hear what you want to talk about, Ty.
All right.
Cool.
I'll peace out.
Peace.
See ya. Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Or Freeqo.
Thank
sorry.
you.
Freeqo.
I'm Freeqo. I am Freeqo.
You're
I'm also
Freeqo.
Paul. I'm many things, but I am Freeqo today. Today is I'm in Freeqo. Freeqo is the bridge builder. He's a nice guy.
He's all right.
He tries to be a nice guy. Paul would have been saying way more curse words than Freeqo.
Probably.
Yeah, because Paul's a
yeah.
dick. All right. Well, we'll see you, Ty.
Yeah.
What would you
Yeah.
like? What did you have in mind?
What was I thinking about? How to break things down in a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Community, like that's why me personally, I'm into like democratic confederalism or confederalism, communalism.
Yeah, I swim
Um,
heavily in that democratic confederal kind of mindset, such as I understand it. I'm no expert, but such as I understand it, that's kind of where I fit, more or less. Municipal, democratic, confederal kind of. I'm not so keen on the patriarchy thing. I really don't care about that stuff, but I don't not care about. I don't care that other people care. I guess I could say that. I don't care that other people care. I'm much more interested, and I don't think everybody should be like me, but maybe this is my role, this is my function. I'm interested in 3D printing and new structures and mesh networks. And I believe that those things, these structures, I think even more than I know you're big on ideas and ideationals and knowing the ideologies. I'm not into that so much anymore. I was, but I'm not anymore. But I think that's important. It's important that we have all these different voices. But I really, I'm much more interested in the basic structures that would actually tilt the balance of power away from the Citadelians, and then I'd like to see natural emergence of diverse expressions of consensual associations. And I don't believe that any of you and me or anybody else has come anywhere close to figuring out with any degree of certainty exactly, like, morally who and what we should be.
yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm into like uh, having where municipalities have more strength than the state power or a corporate power. Um, well,
Yeah, me
if there's
too.
no state, then you're dealing with now also what can be developed is a corporate power or a crony guild where people with a mass amount of wealth have a lot more power and they can have even control of democracy
You
if the
mean like
democracy
now?
does exist too. Oh yeah, like yeah,
Yeah, like
exactly like
big
now.
time now?
Is
Like,
it,
yeah.
yeah, like it mainly I call it like a bourgeois democracy because they pay um because you need a lot of money to get into things. It built up to that reality in this country, so we have to learn how to not repeat that situation where the democratic processes are not like uh, uh, uh,
See, I think,
or where people have more of a voice. It's lands more on a consensus too, and there's more participation even when people are not discouraged in that kind of reality
whoa,
too.
we have reality. Hello? Oh no.
Here.
Hold on. All right, can you hear me? Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you. So we have a reality such as that is, in which all of the thought leaders, all of the predominant, the ones that are speaking to 99% of the population, all the thought leaders, all the corporate leaders, all the major political leaders, all the media outlets. I believe that, and you're probably going to think I'm nuts, or maybe you're not, because Bodhi didn't, so I was surprised he didn't. I believe that what you're seeing right now is the level of unreality is unbelievable. And I believe the narratives that are being pushed, whether it's the Democrats, whether it's the Republicans, whatever it is at the if it's from the corporate, if it's in the corpo state family, that message has been in some part, directly and or indirectly, molded by competing AI programs. That we are literally just watching AI programs compete for the narrative to win hearts and minds. using any deceptive means necessary. And it's all insane to watch if I'm right. And I think I am, because it's getting crazier and crazier. It's like it's got to be AI at this point. It's got to be AI run.
Could be AI, but if the AI is programmed to side with the corporate power and not society
Oh,
in
of
general.
course. It's decided. It's designed to
AI is
create.
the program.
It's designed to It's designed to create narratives that influence the outcomes that these people want, and the outcomes they want is like what's going on with YouTube, and now they're starting to throttle more people. There's scary stuff. Is like, the fundamental thing that they have to do is their biggest claim is that they're the experts, they're the craft, they're the quality, they're the excellence. That's what separates them from we the poors. But when we the poors can produce YouTube videos that are every bit as good, if not better, than anything they do, like that totally shatters the myth of their level of professionalism compared to us. And that's like divine right of kings kind of nullifying kind of stuff right there, because that's their biggest a claim to nobilization. Like the House of Saud now coming out saying they're going to be the great stewards of the wealth of Saudi Arabia. They're taking on that divine right. Their divine right of kings is the stewardship role, and the stewardship role only comes if you believe that they're somehow better than you. And the dirty little secret, and you know it, Ty, is billionaires and people who are successful and make billions of dollars and millions of dollars. They're absolutely no more qualified to think about human conditions than you are. Not at all. They have no divine or professional authority or understanding.
They're just thinking about themselves more than anything. And to be on top. That's the thing also with the a, 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 extreme imbalance of wealth is like these people even have more power than the state itself. So
Right.
it basically
Bodhi and
says
I were saying
something,
that, yeah.
and so it basically says something. So we have to create a structure that doesn't create that, but we have to, in a way, for that to work, we have to break up into many little things like municipalities on a small scale, and then where municipalities have full control, and also in each municipality, well, I'm coming from an idea that I'm into. You economic committees that are there to help prevent a crony guild happening, even when there's no state. So that's what we have to think about, because democratic situations or neighbor to neighbor democracy, even, we have to be careful. We have to understand what is the limit, and we have to understand, are we handing power to somebody by just letting them have so much or hoard, and then they can actually start buying out your neighbors? You see what I'm saying? There's no connection, no communication, so it starts to become top down.
Yeah, they can buy and sell your sacred data a million times over, and they have. Well, Bodhi and I were talking about how, in essence, the billionaire. Now, I don't mean all billionaires. I mean, I use the word citadelian. That's my word. A citadelian. They're like a citadel, all in and of themselves. Wherever they walk, they're a citadel. Citadelians are ones who can command. And there's varying degrees of citadelians, but there's only a very few worldwide citadelians. And that's the group. That's the fundamental group that's in power. And these citadelians, they simply have the power to command the violence resource. And they're sending forth the messages, or they send forth the messages, the narratives, the schools of thought. They identify schools like, I think that they saw SJW rising, and SJW in and of itself, before it became authoritarian, in and of itself, it was a highly effective tool in the hand of the poors in reducing, in stripping away a lot of these institutions that, I mean, white people didn't understand it. Okay, they may think these institutions may favor white people, and they do, but in the overall, everybody's lives are diminished because of it, including white people. So, I guess it's taken. I think a lot more white people understand that now. But all of these narratives, whether it pointing people towards this racism or that racism or whatever it is, they're funded, they're supported by these citadelians, and then they're infiltrated by the intelligence services that are answerable to the citadelians. Most of what you have, I mean, to me, Ty, anyone that gets to a level where corporations find them useful, I'm done with them. There's no
Okay,
way
so yeah.
that they're trustworthy anymore. Go ahead.
Well, basically, what the DNC does, I'll give an example. What the DNC does is, um, they commodify race. It's like a commodity for their voting power.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
if you're putting, what happens is when people um, put race or feminism into those realms, is it's not really SJW. Actually, it's
Right. I
not.
call it
It's,
social authoritarianism.
it could be social authoritarianism, but it could be a form of manipulation, pretty much. Like,
Well, no, it is social authoritarianism. It's manipulative in nature. It's fundamentally manipulative in nature. It's using, it's co-opting. I guess you could say, I don't like words like just, and I hate value words, but it's co-opting what could be a just cause, and turning it into a vehicle of power that ends up keeping everybody pretty much where they're at.
no, it's just to give more power to the corporate elites.
Yeah, well,
So
I think
bankers,
I think we
yeah,
just said the same thing, actually. I don't think you understand what
and
I'm
it
saying.
does nothing to white people or anything, but it does actually create more suffering to minorities as they commodify that situation. I can see right through it. Like, white people are not harmed by these things because the majority of this market is white. um, so what they need to do is commodify a situation, confuse people. It's not just SJW, but to create a particular fascistic situation, like setting up the future where the people's psychologies get really rambled up in a particular way, and that's how they're really.
Well, what I see going on is for the citadelians, it's not as important to them how or why. What they want you to develop is a fascistic type mindset. Or maybe fascistic too strong. Just basically some form of authoritarian type mindset. An authoritarian type mindset that again pleads to their agents for help and protection.
Okay, here's an example. Democrats, they claim to stand for workers,
Yeah, nobody's
and
standing.
they'll use it in their
No
talking
party's
points.
standing for workers right now, right?
They use it consistently in their talking points, just like SJW thing, consistently. But that's like to gain some form of power, but nothing is done. And that's the part that people don't see. What the people
Right.
react to is their talking points. When is in reality, it's like, yeah, they're saying these things, but how real is it? And then people react to it also badly, which would create another situation um, where the corporate elite will use, if this corporate society, like if capitalism is failing, they can actually use that fascist bump to create confusion amongst people while they get themselves grounded again
Well, it also
in their situation.
It also, the old deflects them from the failures that are happening, and also you can escape the failures to somebody else, not our policies. Just like California, I mean, California is a mess for a lot of reasons, but all you hear is, see, this is what happens with socialism. It's like cartoon crayon thinking.
Yeah, it's like there's no really worker empowerment here. It's not even social. Like
There's
this
no
is like straight.
socialism in America. It's not socialism. It's authoritarian. I don't know, centralism, authoritarian. I don't know. I mean, you could call it capitalism. I don't even know what that is. I don't think capitalism was ever real. I think it was always a unicorn.
Capitalism was never ever real, and it was also like a hijacked term, but it was also part of playing into the confusion within society too. That part also.
Hmm.
So
Always is.
what we're dealing with now, like even workers or SJWs, that's the game they're consistently playing. So we're always kind of gonna the main thing is to always distract and mislead and get people on each other, because that's the way they're protected. They
Right.
protect themselves. That's their guard. You see?
I do. I call them
Yeah.
shields. Yeah, they call
Yeah,
them
they're
shields.
shields.
I've changed a lot of. I've been actually this week has been like a really. I've made a lot of fundamental shifts just in the last few days. I go through these periods. I'm sure you've experienced it where suddenly you get this fundamental paradigm shift and all your language structures change. Like that's what's going on with me. I am trying. Like I've been railing again. I've been trying to see my I don't want to play into the game of delegitimizing SJW thought. So
That
I've
got
always
lost.
what's that?
The original SJW stuff kind of got lost, but yeah, I know what
I
you're
don't want
saying too.
to I don't want to delegitimize that thought process because it's very helpful and constructive. So I've been struggling. So now I'm coming up. That's why I'm saying social authoritarian, and also I don't want to delegitimize the word conservative or Republican or Democrat or progressive. I don't want to delegitimize any of those words. I want
Yeah, that's a complicated part too. Like I don't
uh-huh.
want to delegitimize the term conservative itself, but I use the term as like I use it in my language as like watch out for these conservatives, blah 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 blah. But I kind of understand what I'm saying, but
Yeah,
also
I'm not
there's a
telling you
deeper
how to do
meaning
your.
to that term conservative too.
Yeah, but
That's a
my
better
my
meaning.
my point is I'm not trying to cut off schools of thought. I'm trying to cut off the authoritarian aspect of all these schools of thought. The degree to which you are stepping outside, like for instance, I've always made the comparison as I've really thought about SJW and Christianity because there's a lot of similarities. The disciplines are really similar in a lot of ways, especially amongst liturgical Christianity more so. And they're systematic. They're the Christians. We have a denomination called the Methodists, and they get their name because they're one of the people that really went down this path the most. Pietism is where a lot of stuff got started as far as Methodism is concerned, but it's a methodology of sanctification through a very deliberate, almost mathematical process. Which the SJW they're developing this. It's becoming really, 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 really out of control. In my opinion, but
But some of it gets
the
out of control, even
well
with some leftists too.
well as a discipline, as an internal discipline that you practice amongst consenting members, it can be highly useful. SJW can be a great way for you to, dare I say it, deprogram from all the what I call the heuristic institutions that have been built up in you that people put in you without your consent. It can be very constructive. And just like Christian Methodism, the Methodists, I got no problem against the Methodists unless the Methodists decide to take up and say, we are the absolute certain. Anybody else who disagrees with us is the devil, and we will use the state to enforce that certainty. That's when you lose me every single time. And the Methodists actually did have some degree of power in which they did kill people. Not the specific Methodists, but people in that Christian mindset. You know, the Protestant Christians killed far more people during when they first rose in the 1400s, and the Catholics get a bad rep. I mean, I don't like the Catholics. I don't like any regimented systems in general, but Protestants killed more people than the Catholics did. Like, the Spanish Inquisition didn't kill anywhere near as many, didn't burn nearly as many witches as the Protestants did. Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
that,
see what.
and
Yeah, the different religions and stuff. Yeah,
and that's what came over to America. That particular, well, what came over to America, unfortunately, was Calvinist Christianity. And Calvinist Christianity, remember we were talking about legitimization of the new divine right of kings is the divine right of capitalists, which is success.
Yeah.
Success is enough to give you legitimization. That's a Calvinist notion. It needs to be killed. Because success is not indicative of anything. I mean, it may indicate some things, but by and large, most of the people who are successful, especially because we have so many artificial scarcity impediments that have been created, so we have significantly less high levels of quality of life that we make available to human beings. And yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. Lost my chain of thought. Damn it. I blame you, actually. I actually literally blame you for that. Literally.
Yeah.
I literally do. I'm just saying. I literally do. Just going to leave it at that. But, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of scarcity that's been created, but it's actually a lot of it's artificial.
That's
too.
what I'm saying. Like, IP has created so much unnecessary cost into human exchange, intellectual property. So
It's
much.
weird.
Huh?
I was saying it's weird. Intellectual property is so weird, and yeah, it created a lot of problems. It's major.
IP is fascistic, in my opinion. It's like fascistic in the sense of using the market to control people instead of indirect, complete control. IP is why you pay. It's one of the big reasons why healthcare costs so much, because of how the drugs with all the IP laws, and oh man, it's bad. They're
A
literally,
lot of stuff is expensive because of IP. Even like
food is expensive because people have to. Do you know that, you know this, I'm sure. Do you know that farms have to buy copyright licenses to use fucking seeds?
Monsanto seeds and
All
different
that
ones.
shit. It's like,
Yeah, it's
that's
all
created
owned.
artificial cost. And that's capital. By the way, that is capitalism. That's what you get with capitalism. You know, everybody, I'm just going to say this
That's
in
it.
time. I know you're with me. If you have a system that produces billionaires, your system is fucked. I don't care what it is, whether it's a communist system that produced billionaires, whatever you call it. If it produces billionaires, your system is fucked, except for the few superheroes. But we're not superheroes.
That's what I say.
What?
I say that to everybody. I go, if you have billionaires in your country, it's fucked. I don't care if it's communist China,
Yeah, it
socialist
doesn't
China,
matter.
or whatever.
If you think it's good to have systems that allow for tiny numbers of individuals to have that level of, you understand, Americans, we think of wealth as being this neutral thing. We don't understand what wealth means. Wealth means real power and significant perpetual advantage for you and your kin. It's an ennobling power. And you don't want ennobling power because it creates, an ennobling class and ennobling classes. They tend to treat you like you're a piece of shit, like you're just a process. And
I don't
then
even know how to understand why did China have billionaires. You know, some leftists like, there's some confused leftists like, do you understand why they have billionaires? They can't figure that out. It's like because it's that power.
Did you see, by the way, in 2017 when they changed their stuff, Chairman Z wrote his, I forget what it's called. He's not called Chairman Z. I call him Chairman Z. Fuck him. Grandmaster Pooh. He has reiterated that, listen, man, see, the way that works is, we're going to get to that whole, like, everybody's equal shit. Like, but before we get there, it's going to take, like, more controls. Like, we're going to have to really lock shit down to make sure we all get in harmony with one another. We all got to have one mind, one hive mind. And yeah, it's probably going to be like 100 years or so before we get to that. Literally, it's written, well, not exactly like that, but the 100 years part is literally written in as it's a declaration. It's going to be at least another 100 years before they get to communism.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while, and it's really now with the word equal, people get confused with that word. So equal, not everybody completely equal. Like it's not
The word is a
what
spook, dude. Doesn't mean anything
yeah,
to me.
it's a spook. Yeah, it's too confusing for people because then you're like dealing with all these. You get into like even this. You can see the confusion because of that word equal. It's like no, it's not about equal. It's about removing class distinctions. Basically, like the major gap, wealth gap that exists, and also preventing that top-down structure where um, where it turns into some like bourgeois democracy system or a crony guild. So that's what we're trying to prevent. And it's not about being completely equal or anything, because some people will want to live like having primitive skills or different things. Different people do different things, and then also another thing. What the goal is anti-exploitation. So it's not a so basically to prevent people to prevent exploiting others. So it's not about equality, but to remove class distinctions. And how do you do that? Um, is to remove that major class gap where you don't have that top-down structure.
How do you remove that class gap?
I don't know. It's going to be some process or a complete collapse of the state, but you need an educated society too at the same time.
I think that I think that you need demonstrable displays of consensual living, and you need individuals who just pursue consensual living amongst other individuals in more and more organized kind of municipalist, direct democratic and federal, whatever, all those consensual type of governance structures that allow you and yours to not and you're not doing this to be a survivalist, to be on your own. You're doing this with an outward look to say and to demonstrate your community and say, hey, come here, everybody. This is how we're doing it. Look, none of us have bought from Amazon in years, and look, like 70% of our interactions are done with our own digital currency, like in-house, like amongst ourselves. This digital currency is valuable. It might only be valuable amongst 30 of us here, but it works. Stuff like that. That
Exactly.
is, huh?
Exactly. That's how. And yeah, even dealing with things. That's why we have to work with and making things smaller and more broken
Yeah,
up.
I agree.
And you do have to deal with your neighbors, and that's why I believe in municipalism, because you are gonna work on coming together to put a road in or structures or electricity and stuff like that. And how do we deal with it? You know, like knowing what utility is personal and what utilities are public, and then you
Yeah,
work it
yeah.
from
If
there.
if if
But not
it's if
not
it's
with state,
something
just with your neighbors.
if it's something that realistically could only be provided by one or a couple of entities, then it's something that has to be done through some consensual sharing process. It can't be given over to the corpo state. Just keep it totally separate from the corpo state. It's got to be, whatever it is, communal organizing, that however they do it, municipal. Maybe that in and of itself is like its own little municipal structure. And the municipal structure is about running that service, whether it's water or power or whatever. But hopefully, less and less power. There may still be some degree of larger scale power to for the whole community, but I think I'd be inclined as much as possible to have individuals and their close associations having some degree of power, individual and shared power, at as small units as possible. but water. And even on the waterfront, there's so much that can be done using gray water systems, and especially like, and this is another thing I think, as far as like organizing spaces around multiple homes, multiple households with shared spaces, and how those types of spaces can really maximize a gray water system, a collective gray water system, so the whole community uses significantly less water. Never mind using compost toilets instead of sewage. We should be done. We should only use compost toilets. That should be it.
That's how
So,
people should be thinking. Like, what's gonna be very beneficial while you're an individual and working with other people's was, and to understand how to separate personal to to public or community, also at the same time.
yep.
Um,
Yeah, it has to
that's why
be.
things
Go ahead.
that's why things on a smaller scale works even better too, because it's like face to face a lot of times at the same time.
And that's the thing. That face to face, that keeps that accountability rather high. It's as soon as you lose the degree to which you lose the face to face, you get people that are more just, that are more willing to press the button that kills someone. If you don't see them from a distance, they're more likely to press the button. But when they're your neighbors, like what the Rajavans have with their police force, how they have to be, well, policing, whatever you want to call it, they have to be from the community. They serve in turn. Now they may repeat their service, but they only serve for a short period of time and then they're gone. There's no legacy that they want people to build in those positions of power. And they send out a man and a woman together to govern. By the way, that's SJW, and that's SJW done consensually and practically. See, that's why I wouldn't want to kill the phrase or the notion or the schools of thought that people associate with SJW, because it produces
More of a real
Rojava.
type of SJW over there too. It's not even like this corporate kind of.
Right. No, right. It's not being
Finder.
used as a vehicle of power. Well, it's being used as a vehicle of power, but it's for the poors. We poors. It's for the distribution of force resources is what ultimately is happening in Rojava. There's a pretty, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a pretty solid distribution of force power throughout Rojava. Like, nobody could just rise up and fuck with people. That'd be
You
bad.
can't, especially like police. It's that's cool that you brought up the police in Rojava, and they do a tradition called I think it's called Tikmal or Tikmel, and the community, the person has to sit there, and then the community, each person one by one comes and give their opinions about that one person, and they do it like
Yeah.
so often.
Yeah,
You
that's
know
that.
about that
That's
too,
that.
right?
Yeah. That's I didn't remember the name of it, but yeah, that's that direct accountability again. That's that's the thing. See, I mean, I am of a mind that the thing that keeps us consensual with one another is a realization that we can't get away with shit, and the Rajavan structure kind of reminds you of that on a almost daily basis. Dude, if you fuck with your
To sit there.
neighbors, it's gonna be bad. If you want to have a good time, you better please your neighbors. Like, not just get by, but please your neighbors. That's consensuality. Cooperation is, I'm just gonna do whatever I can get away with. And that's the key. That's what I was talking to Bodie about. I have a problem with the word. I hate the word cooperation now because they use it so operative. Cooperation. They use it in a corporate setting, and we live in systems which very, very few of us have the ability, have the resources to actually truly have the power to choose to not sign up for the types of business employment opportunities that are out there. We have very few choices because they're run by very few groups of people and they have very authoritarian systems. But because,
All the same, pretty much almost.
right. Yeah, so it's not
Not
cooperation. I mean, it's not consensus. It's cooperation, which is they will do as much as they will get as I've literally heard this described by a capitalist owner, and I'm not going to say who it was. And they're talking about how much they pay their people, and they make sure they don't pay their people too much, because if they pay them too much, they'll have a disincentive to show up to work. Like, that's the mindset.
See, they always come up with some weird
Just thinking
thoughts
of
and
them as
theories to
they're
convince
thinking
people
of
of stuff.
human beings as a process. They're not being consensual with them. They're not having relationships with them. They're just tools. They're just things. They're just a sponge that they have to try and squeeze as much as possible in a way that the sponge doesn't say, ouch, that hurts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They do it in a certain way, in such a way. Yeah, it is really bad. It's yeah. All these places are the same, so you're not really choosing. It's like you can leave one place, go to another, and it's like the same structure, probably
Right.
controlled by the same top
Same legal
guy.
language and everything. Same read the terms of service. It's all the same.
All the same. Is no choice. Yeah.
You consent to getting ass fucked for $3. Wait, I'm going to go over here because they're going to ass fuck me for $5. And that's your big win. That's what you're competing for.
Yeah.
I mean, we have incredibly diminished life.
$3 difference.
You know, I'm about ready to wrap up here, but I'm going to end on this note. You know, in the last year and a half, I have been really sick. I have had periods of time where I can't even get out of bed. Now, the last month or so, I feel like I might be coming out of it, maybe. And maybe I actually start to, like, make real money again. That'd be nice. But I have kind of been in this pattern where all I could do is intake data. And over the last year and a half, I have taken in so much data, way more than I ever have in my entire life. Like, in the same, it's not even close. And I have grown so much in my understanding of the world around me. And my reason for pointing this out is my wife has a good job. And because I got sick, I had the space to explore my own understanding of the world at a pretty high, intense level, at least for me. And hardly any of us have an opportunity to do that because the structures that we have accepted as being somehow acceptable, they fundamentally do not allow for human beings to ever really get a full sense of who and what they are and the true nature of the world around them. They're just pushed along in the flow. And it's the side effect of this illness, I guess, is that I actually got to experience, like, in a way, I got to experience to some degree the life of the opulent elite, in that I was given the leisure time to explore my own understandings.
Humans in general need more leisure time. The way we function now is kind of not normal in reality.
We never.
Primitive people had more leisure time.
Oh yeah,
Even
absolutely, yeah.
Like and their work, they made their work fun. Like whether it's hunting or gathering food, and they made it fun, and they sang or whatever they did. But we don't even have that now.
Yeah,
If we try to make work fun, we get in trouble for it too.
Yeah.
So we can't think properly, you know? It's
yeah.
like,
yeah, I'm not a primitivist, but I can't intellectually argue that somehow civilization is somehow inherently better for human beings. That might be on an individual basis. I believe there are plenty of human beings, maybe the majority, that if they had lived in hunter and gatherer times. Now, let's just assume that that they make it through the early years, okay? Because the early years, you're in trouble. But if you make it through the early years, you're going to live you're going to be able to be 50, 60, 70 years old. They had reasonably long lifespans compared to ours. It was just the early years where they had issues. So if you make it through those early years, you might very well find that is a much more satisfying life than the one that civilization provides for us. Now, we can't unpack this, so I'm not trying to ever do that, but I can't intellectually argue, for me personally, that subjectively for an individual, that hunting gathering life, I mean, I think I wouldn't have benefited from it because of my health situation. I would have died immediately. But just say
Yeah.
I didn't have that, I would have preferred that life than this. Definitely.
Yeah, because of the leisure and the more play that's involved in it. But yeah, there's certain things with the primitive lifestyle that's not so beneficial for like overall like health and different things
Oh
that
yeah, there's
um
disadvantages though. I'm just saying, all things being equal, I think I would. Again, if I knew I made it through those early years and I was in reasonably good health, if I was a normal, physically healthy person, those are the caveats. It got to be those things. Because if you have any issues, you're done.
yeah, you're done. That's why it's good that we moved past that too. But also not to lose all the primitive skills that we can use or take advantage of at the same time as we move into a modern
Or maybe
situation too.
just self-making skills, not losing the self-making skills, or the being able to build your own house, being able to grow your own food, crap like that. If we have more people like that, then we end up with. I mean, if you must have governments, which I prefer you don't. By the way, Ty, I'm going to send you my platform. I'm creating a political party, so I'm going to send you my platform later.
Oh,
It's a
that's interesting. That's cool.
yeah. It's a. I'm interested to see what you got. It's called the Bill of Rights Party, the Boer Party, and
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, you'll see. I do have a platform that involves bringing people together and basically forming peace treaties, in which we did the fundamental issues that people are fighting over, that are giving these citadelians their power to manipulate people. Gay rights, abortion, gun rights, all that crap. You can go through a consensual process and create these 20-year-long amendments that'll set like the upper limits and lower limits for the degrees to which states can govern these actions. And the idea is not, you're not settling who's right or wrong. You just create these spaces for peace for 20 years for people to really get to think about this in a consensual type of way. And then on top of that, then you're also developing consensual associations to basically gut the ghettos, to to end the ghettos by filling the ghettos with whatever resources people need to build the world that they want to build. And so you go through a consensual process. How do we get the resources to this? And I don't care, about the anarchies or any of that crap. I just care that if we end ghettos, it fundamentally tilts the balance of power away from the citadelians. Without victims, they're in trouble. So, yeah, this is just some of the thoughts. What do you think?
Good. I think sounds good so far. And I'm also I'm gonna start working with this, or I'm probably gonna try to start a chapter in California. Working, this is organization called DCUA, and it stands for Democratic Confederalist Union of America.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
yeah, it's an organization that's like, I
I'll
guess it's
check that out.
similar to DSA. I thought DSA was a party for a while, but it's not. It's actually an organization.
Democrat Socialists in America, right?
Party. They're actually an organization. So people that are DSA, they be either in like Independent Party, Green Party, or Democrat Party, because they're an organization, not a party. So I was like, what? I always thought they were a party, and then I just recently found out they're not a party. They're an organization. I go,
Yeah.
oh,
Well, just so
and
you
so
know,
that's what these.
yeah,
Huh?
just so you know, my Boer party is more theater. I'm not literally starting a party, but I'm going to do a theater. I'm going to actually act like I'm going to start the Boer party, and I'm going to start hitting stuff. I'll show you the platform. I'm anxious to see what you think. I think that it's a platform, and that it's something that could move authoritarian left away from uh, cheering on things like hate speech laws and crap like that, and the authoritarian right from cheering on like these abortion laws, like these where they're like, what is North Carolina, the draconian abortion laws, and like, I don't know. I think I can hopefully create a space at least, because I do not believe that we who want consensuality, that it's in our best interest to see the United States of America have a divorce rate now. I'm very interested in keeping this land together, at least for a time longer. to incubate. That's my operating premise.
So I'll be doing some, because I'm kind of getting like, man, this working with parties is kind of wears me down a bit, actually.
It's horrible. It's horrible because
And that's why I was
nobody
thinking
wants
of
to play your nobody wants to play ball with you the way you would like them to.
parties are it's very strange. Even I don't know. That's why I'm gonna stick with probably working with organizations better, but not with DSA, but with DCUA. So I'm gonna try to get
I'm going to
that
check that
going.
out. I'm interested in that. I wonder see how close they are to oh, I got a couple.
Website
I
too. You
didn't.
can just
I'm
probably
still waiting.
type in
I have ordered Abdullah. What's his first name? Osalan. What's his first name?
Abdullah Ocalan.
What's his first name?
Abdullah.
Oh, I was right. I got it right. All right. Yeah, I ordered a couple of his
Yeah.
books. I'm still waiting for them, but I'm anxious to read them. I can't believe I found books available that I could buy of his.
Oh man, this stuff gets interesting, man. He goes even into like ancient stuff or ancient religions and stuff. I was like, wow, but it's because he's explaining like different things, and it's coming from like a Middle Eastern perspective, and specifically Kurdish.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, I'm anxious
stuff,
to yeah.
and it helps. And when reading his stuff this is what's good about it. This is why I like Abdullah Öcalan. Reading his stuff can help us. If anybody can read his books and not even be into democratic confederalism, even anybody can read his books and even understand Middle Eastern issues a lot better than what we think now.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well,
Yes.
yeah, we have no idea. I mean, the Middle East is a bloody mess and largely because we artificially created a world over top of something that doesn't exist. That's fundamentally what the problem is. But that's another
Understand
story.
things so much better. Every situation there, it's just so like anybody. Like that's why I suggest anybody read his books. It's like I don't even care what ideology you follow. Just read his stuff, and it's gonna give you like an eye-opening situation about stuff there. Even with Israel, Turkey, even Turkey, like he the way he writes, he wants peace all over, dude. Like, yeah, they started their own groups and they have militias and stuff, but the ideas that he's presenting, they're pretty deep, and he clears a picture for a lot of stuff.
Well, I'm assuming that he's taking Bookchin to other places, to applications and applied science, I guess you could say, of Murray Bookchin. It's what I'm thinking I'm going to find. I could be wrong, but I'm looking forward to it. Really, really looking forward.
Yeah.
And with that note,
He even
go ahead.
it's weird. He even considered Bookchin like a prophet. Like he goes, what? Like he was even saying like he wished he ran into it earlier, but it was just everything's the right timing anyway.
Yeah, he
And-
kind of screwed the pooch before. Yeah, he kind of sold out and made a bad decision when he agreed to a truce with Turkey. That was bad. Laid down their arms and bad stuff happened. Yeah, because he was still a socialist then, right? Primarily Marxist in that camp.
Well, he was Marxist Leninist, and then he drew away from that and started his own idea on democratic confederalism, but he's still into Marxist works, but not Marxist Leninist. So,
Well, yeah. I mean, I mean, there's plenty of capitalist works I'll still read and appreciate, but I'm not a capitalist. But yeah,
and also what really made him think a lot too is when USSR fell in 1991. He goes, "Oh, it didn't work." That in itself, he says, that in itself should say a lot. Just like because of that centralism.
it
So-
converted back, didn't it?
Centralism is what's because anybody can do a power grab, and whoever's on top will say, "Oh, forget all of this now." When it's decentralized, what happens is communities can actually protect themselves
Right.
from the centralized
Right.
decision.
Yeah, remember the centralized decision makers, they can literally erase history. So
And also this is what they thought of in Mexico. This place, Cheran, Mexico. So in Cheran, Mexico, they free themselves, right? You know about that from the government,
I
and
don't
they
know
threw
the
out the gangsters.
details of that.
Yeah,
I have yet to
it was
dive
about
deep into that. Go ahead.
indigenous type people, and they did it to protect trees and everything, because the community thought a certain way in that area, right? So they pushed all these people out, all the crookedness out, and the
Mhm.
state out. But what they were on they were deciding if they should make it a centralized place or decentralized. So they decided to make it decentralized and having councils, because they said if it's centralized in Cheran, Mexico, they said if it's centralized, that person on the top could get bought out. But if it's decentralized,
Yeah,
they
that's the
have to
thing. Yeah.
basically, if it's decentralized, the
When you
councils can protect that other council even if a person gets bought out and if the people don't like what's going on. And that's the power of these having councils or
the power, yeah, the
decentralization.
power of councils of decentralization is if you have a tyrant in a small space, they will be quickly contained. But when you have a tyrant who can say, move 1,000,000 troops, they can't be contained. That's the problem. Anyway, with that, I will bid everyone adieu. I'm so glad that you joined us, Ty. You know, we're going to have a show with you and James and Bodie and myself. We have to have a sixth, was it the fifth or sixth international communist, hidden commie? It's
I wonder
the
was the
sixth international hidden commie. Uh, yeah, the hidden commie
That'll be
international.
good.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I haven't spoken to James in a while, so I'm interested to see where he's at. Because I have to say, well, I haven't spoken to James, but I certainly you and then Bodie I just spoke to, like, even a year ago. Your ideas have changed. Mine has. Bodie has, like, just constantly shifting, constantly evolving, so to speak.
Learning more
Anyway,
and figuring out certain details and stuff like that.
yeah. All right. Well, hey, it was great. It was great talking to you. It was awesome.
Oh yeah,
And thank
good
you,
talking.
studio audience, for joining us for this fantastic magical. Is it magical? Can I say it's magical? I'm gonna call it magical. What the heck? I got nothing to lose with calling it magical, so I'm gonna call it magical. I thank you everybody for joining us, and I will see all of you on this channel Monday around 6 p.m. for another edition of Freeqo Talks, where I go over the 3 websites that I aggregate just for this show: pioneeringnews.com, newsfire.tv, and newsalite.com. Good night, everybody. You want to say good night, Ty?
Night.